Deborah Gray riding her motorcycle into Audrey's books in Edmonton. She's always blazed political trails, among them the first parliamentarian for a political party called Reform and the first female leader of the opposition. Now, out of politics, she has written about her life in a new book. This week, Alison Smith had a chance to talk with Gray in her home.
She never really quite fit the mold. Feisty, outspoken, up for a challenge, and the adventure of the unknown.
So when I had a neighbor dare me out of the blue to run for this brand new Reform Party, I thought, wow, what an experience that would be. I've taught 10 years at this point in my life.
In the middle of nowhere?
Middle of nowhere, northeastern Alberta, beautiful country, but 3 hours outside the city, thinking, I wonder if I could do that.
Well, she certainly did it.
For Alberta schoolteacher Deborah Gray and Reform Party leader Preston Manning, it's a sweet victory. But it's also more than winning a seat in the House of Commons. They see it as the beginning of political change in Western Canada.
It's exciting, and it's history for Western Canada tonight.
Those first days as the Reform Party's one and only MP are still vivid. What were you feeling?
I was feeling stark terror because, as most Canadians, I didn't sit and have my life wrapped up in watching Question Period on TV or studying Hansard, that's for sure. You know, I was a busy individual, making a living, being part of community, so politics was the farthest thing from my mind. And then I thought, here I am in the House of Commons, and it was just terrifying. But it was exhilarating. I didn't have a caucus to help me out, nobody to give me orientation. Hit it in the center of the ball and just give her.
Okay. Woohoo! That was 15 years ago. We met at Gray's house in Edmonton. We played pool and talked about politics and her journey onto the national political stage. As a child growing up in Vancouver, Deb Gray learned early how to stick up for herself. She was one of 5 children, her father an alcoholic who left when she was 9.
Back in the early 60s, Alison, you just did not mention it. So we had that pain of trying to keep our pain private. And it's not that you want to go blabbing it all over the place, but you want people to understand it, and it was very difficult for us. I think I realized in that it was a good thing to be forthright, to be open about it, and we probably opened that up by choice, rather than living with the stereotype of, oh, you can't talk about this.
It is a sham! Gray's forthright manner and her enthusiasm helped her win 4 elections and put her at the forefront of dramatic change to Canadian political life. You talked about making history as the first Reform MP. You made history as the first female leader of the opposition. You were part of the new wave of reform that swept into the House and really changed the political landscape. Going through that, did you have a sense that you were riding a wave of history?
Well, I think so, although when you're right in the middle of it, you just kind of hang on to the surfboard, I guess, and just hang on like grim death, because you're not really sure where it's going.
They were heady days in the late 90s. Preston Manning's Reform Party became the official opposition. But the Reform Party and the good times didn't last. Stockwell Day became the leader of the newly formed Canadian Alliance, and the party seemed to be eating itself alive.
There's no shame in admitting that you're not a leader. Not everyone can be a leader.
The end of 2000 and 2001 were probably the most difficult political years for you, and that was a period of time when Stockwell Day became leader. You talk in the book about being betrayed, about being lied to, and you blame Stockwell Day for much of that. What do you think of him?
We have a relationship now which is cordial, and I just wanted to make sure that the whole party was able to withstand this. I didn't want to spend 12 and a half years there and then see it just kind of piddled away, frankly. So I think that's the lesson I learned there, that you need to be very careful who you confide in, and also that not all your colleagues are going to be great pals.
I want to ask you a little bit about your faith, because that clearly informs an awful lot of who you are. And at one point in the book, you talked about working Christianly in a non-Christian arena. What are you driving at when you say that?
That as a woman of faith, obviously that affects every decision I make in my life. And I have been ripped to shreds. It seems that it's okay to be anything but a Christian. Anything but that. And you've seen Hetty Fry then in the interim, and you've seen in the recent election in 2004, the Liberals paying for a poll that went forward saying, you know, would you trust a government that's comprised of many evangelical Christians? I say shame on you. If I were a Muslim, would I be attacked that way? Never. But if you're a Christian, it seems like you're fair game. So obviously that affects my worldview, just like everything else does.
So I imagine this would be a good therapy after a week in the House of Commons too, huh?
I just put a name on every ball, and say, okay, there's so-and-so.
Deborah Gray just seems happy to be home now, uncertain about what's next, but not worried about it either. Tell me what you're looking forward to.
I'm 52, and I may look a whole lot older. They think I'm ready for retirement, but it was a matter of letting go of that trapeze and reaching out to the next one to say, I have another chapter in my life, and I don't want to stay in Parliament for too long and wear out my welcome. I won't mention any names, but it seems there's so many people that just hang on like grim death, and that's all they know. Surely there's more to life than just Parliament, and I had a great run. And when people come up and say, we miss you, I said, that's exactly the time you ought to leave.
What do I hang on to? The political ride is never easy, and often not easy to leave. But the thought of the open road makes Deb Gray happy, even if there's a reporter on the back of the bike for one more ride. For The National, I'm Alison Smith.
That's The National for this Friday. I'm Peter Mansbridge. Thanks for watching.